welcome to an all-new Friday edition of Second City Sports. We're live and live in color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakeena McGee, which is she. I am Cindy Brown. Hey, that's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Lakeena McGee on the Twitter and at Lakeena on the IG.
Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app. You want to know why? Because we said so, that's why. And also, too, you can catch any of other 5 Live shows throughout the week. You happen to miss them, you can go back and listen and watch them at your own leisure. Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app today. Speaking of Sports Zone Chicago, you can find us on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, find Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. You want to catch our podcast, Second City Sports, you can do so by subscribing to War on Anchor. We are available on all podcast platforms, including that iHeartRadio app. Make sure you type this in your search engine boxes. Ready? WARR on Anchor on all podcast platforms to catch the audio version of this fine program. And you can follow War Media at WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. One more again, as the kids would say, you can follow War Media at WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinions on any of our topics that we're going to cover in this 2-hour extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show, you can go to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your questions or comments in the comments section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. But if you decide to troll and or do something stupid, or as you young folks would say, act ignorant, Lakeena, give them the Beer Lane beer boot.
Bye-bye.
I love when she says that. And speaking of a new way you can catch Second City Sports and all the Sports Zone Chicago programming, we did not forget. You can catch us now on Roku TV. Yes, catch us on Roku TV. There you go, Lakeena. Sports Zone Chicago is now on Roku TV. You have a Roku TV. All you have to do is go into the sports section, type in Sports Zone Chicago. Voila, it's right there. You can watch us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days in a year, and 52 weeks out of the year. You can watch us live and or on demand whenever you feel like so. One more again, as you young folks would say, catch Sports Zone Chicago now available on Roku TV. If you don't have Roku TV, make sure you download the app and do the same thing. Go into the sports section, type in Sports Zone Chicago. Oh, voila, we're right there. Lakeena, let's kick off this Friday edition of Second City Sports by discussing Chicago baseball. We'll start off with the South Side. Lakeena, hashtag Southside Hitman. There are 3 games below 500 after the Detroit Tigers still won on the South Side last night by the score of 2-1. Dylan Cease pitched to Jim, striking out 8 through 6 innings. The lack of hitting cost the White Sox once again. They tried to come back in the 9th inning, but it failed thanks to your boy Eloy Jimenez. Lakeena, not in the field, but at the plate. Grounded out to the shortstop, and that was that. Early in the week, they lost 2 or 3 to the Minnesota Twins. Eloy Jimenez, as I mentioned just a second ago, made his season return from injury from late April, belted out a 2-run shot, and which helped the White Sox propel to their only win of the season over the Minnesota Twins, 9-8 on Thursday, thanks to hashtag Leary Legend, aka Leary Garcia, with his second game winning hit within a week. Lakeena, I want to go back to Monday's game, which I was at, and our buddy Christine, we caught up as well. Christine Manica from KXRB. You should see her every other week, giving her sports commentary, thoughts on entertainment, and more. And I saw that play in the 7th inning when the Sox were coming back. They actually tied the game at 2. This was Monday's game, July the 4th. But when Yohan Moncada, I believe he was at the plate, and then they grounded out, you figure, well, it's a routine double play, and Adam Engel would end up at third. Not so. Lakeena, what did we talk about all season? The lack of situation. What's the word I'm looking at? Yeah, not just hitting, but lack of situation attention. Okay, I'm sure I just made up that term, but paying attention to detail. Adam Engel did not tag up to go to third. He's just still right there like you had lost at a stop sign, and you got caught with your pants down. Lakeena, from the base running to the errors into Tim Anderson striking out on a Jartha strike and not running down the first base line at the end of that game on Monday, which he represented the tying run. Lakeena, I had it with this. I had it with this buffoonery of White Sox baseball.
Well,
Any bad thing that you expect to happen is going to happen.
Well,
Enough is enough.
All it's missing was a circus music, right? With some of that stuff.
Yeah,
they had that triple play on Tuesday where Abreu hasn't had a good week. The poor guy. I mean, he overran up the base, and then it caused a triple play.
Mm-hmm.
He struck out a high strike. He did it again. Kind of overran, and then he was tagged out in the eighth, and then in the ninth when Gregory Soto was just pitching batting practice basically. Yeah. At the initially he Abreu swung at a very this is how far the ball was over here where my right arm is third strike. He swung and missed. I'm talking about Abreu. So it's sort of like this has been sort of like the season, the story of the season for the White Sox. I mean, you had weird cognitive errors, as they say. You had base running, hitting, swinging and such, fielding. And yeah, I mean, look, that was a great win by, thanks to Larry, who won, Garcia, who of course, avoided the sweep. That's all it was. They avoided the sweep against the Twins. And now you have a Tigers team that's actually been playing pretty well lately. So in that front, I mean, Cease did, Cease did what Dylan Cease usually does. But look, you're facing a hot Tigers team that's coming off a sweep with the Guardians. We'll get to them in a second, but there's no excuse for some of this stuff that the White Sox have done. And then people are starting to wonder. And I've been listening to some of the various outlets. We of course on this the Score and also to ESPN 1000. Some of them, not all, but some of them have said. And I heard Lawrence Holmes talk about this with our buddy Mark Grody, who's sitting in for Dan Bursey the last couple of days. He's been asking, should the Sox be sellers? We got the trade deadline coming up in about a little over a month. You wonder, should it be at a point where are the Sox sellers? I mean, they're going through the standings real quick. I mean, they're 3 games below 500. It seems like they're allergic to being over 500 at this point of the season. They're 6 games out, with the Twins. And
that would have been more than 6 games out, so that's good news right there.
Well, yeah, but they're 4.5 out of that last wild card spot.
Yeah,
and you deal with about 3 teams from the AL East and perhaps maybe a couple of teams. The Guardians, and probably have to the Mariners as well. We'll get to them in a second. Today they've won 5 in a row. Yay, my Mariners! But yeah, I mean this whole thing. Tim Anderson, okay, the pitching's been really solid, but you feel like nothing's been cohesive with this team this season, and unfortunately, this is why the Sox have been inconsistent and such. So I don't want to give up on them, but you can't. There's no excuse. We're in the first week of July now, folks. We can't use the it's early excuse anymore. You're about halfway through the season, and you have your 2 other teams in your division. Yeah, they're up and down, but they're just a little bit better than you are. So I think you're starting to show that. Okay, what's going on here?
You're listening to Second City Sports, the Friday edition. We're live in living color right here on Sports on Chicago. Sid Lakeena here with you as we talk White Sox and MLB. We'll get to the Cubs in just a second. Our guy, Vernon Fairley, money earning Mount Vernon, checks in from Facebook. He says, Tony La Russa mentally tagged out of baseball. He's really becoming the White Sox version of Lou Piniella with the Cubs. Well, let's really give him a compliment there. I'm using air quotes here. And then he comes back with his second comment. Then it might as well be said as more like liquidation. We'll see what happens in a couple of weeks, Vernon. And that was my next point I'm going to bring up right now. There's a whole bunch of veterans that the White Sox are not going to blow this thing up if they continue to middle around 500 at the August 2nd trade deadline. There's a bunch of veterans that you can get some value for. Jose Abreu, I love him personally, but he deserves a ring. He doesn't deserve to go through this nonsense. He had a taste of it last year as far as winning the division and making the playoffs. No, he was AL MVP 2 years ago. And even though they lost that wild card series at Oakland, he deserves a ring. AJ Pollock, you could get something for. Johnny Cueto, who's been pitching as you know what off. I was there on Monday. I know he gave up that home run to Byron Buxton, but the White Sox ineptitude of paying attention to details will cost them that game, not Johnny Cueto. So Johnny Cueto, you can get something for. There's a couple of veterans that you can get something for. So if this continues and then they're not over 500 by the time the end of July hits, yeah, there's about 3 or 4 veterans that you can see them Rick Hahn train off.
Yeah, and if you're Rick Hahn, you're just you don't know what to say. You kind of like had to put your hands over the face like this. I mean,
Yeah.
running in the scoring position, they're like one of the worst in the league. So you wonder like. Yeah, you want to blame a little bit of LaRussa, but you gotta think that the players they gotta
Hmm.
produce on the field, and that's been the problem here for the Sox. I mean, they haven't been producing, and I feel like this is sort of one of those things where you're our buddy Sean Davis, who is host a podcast for the Irish. We got to get him back on at some
Hmm.
point. But he says that look, is the window starting to close for this team? And he always been a firm believer that this team's window was never open, even with Tony La Russa. So you wonder like the way this team constructed and the fact that yes, you brought out look, Josh Harrison was pitching during that weird debacle on Tuesday, so that should tell you something. So it's one of those things where you just like I don't know. I mean, I want to move on because I know that the Cubs have actually been pretty good. It's actually to some of the other good things that are happening in baseball, but I don't know. I feel like I said, I don't want to give up on the Sox team, but
Hmm.
some of the stuff, I mean, it's been lingering because this stuff started to show after the All-Star break last year. So we saw what happened in that wild card matchup against the Astros, and that really showed. And now, but the thing is, it's starting to linger, and that's the problem.
And just a couple of the things to wrap up on the White Sox. They've been a 500 team, including their playoff series against the Astros last year. So around this time last year, after the All Star break, the White Sox have been hovering around 500. And this is what happens when you have a station-to-station team. You have hot streaks, you have cold streaks, but this team is poorly constructed, and we'll see what happens at the trade deadline. Definitely at the end of the season. Yasmani Grandal, their star catcher, should be back after the All Star break. We mentioned Eloy Jimenez is back, and Liam Hendricks came back early this week, and he looked good at the only game that I saw him pitch in on Monday against the Minnesota Twins. Our guy Vernon checks in again from Facebook, says, fan will say next, they still have 60 games left. Shaking my head. Well, a lot of Sox fans feel that way, Vernon. So, like we said, we'll see what happens. Their season, in my opinion, is on the line right now because after Detroit, you go to Cleveland, and then you go to Minnesota, and 2 weeks from now, around this time, will be the All-Star break. So we'll see where this White Sox team is at that point. Lakeena, let's go over to the Cubs. They won their series at Milwaukee earlier this week. They took it on the chin last night at Los Angeles, losing to the Dodgers by the score of 5-3. Mookie Betts had 2 home runs last night. My guy Justin Turner, minus the long hair, he had another dinger last night. Lakeena, given the circumstances with the Cubs, they actually, as you mentioned, they've been playing better these last few weeks until last night. They won their last 4 series. They looked good against a good Milwaukee Brewers team, even though they're not the same as they were a year ago, but they beat another winning team in a series. Kyle Hendricks has looked good in his last 3 starts. I'm not going to sit here and say the Cubs are back into flirting with a playoff spot, but we're starting to see some signs that maybe some of the guys that have some value will get traded at the trade deadline. But as of right now, this team is fighting and competing hard after that ugly double-digit losing streak.
Yeah, and also you want to say Tony Gonsolin, goes to 11-0. So for the Dodgers, so he's been pitching lights out too for the Dodgers this year. Now, as far as the Cubs, look, if he had told me that PJ Higgins was gonna hit a go ahead RBI off of Josh Hader, I would have said. And I said it on Twitter. Yeah, right. I mean, I would have said, hey, buy the Powerball ticket because it was on, it was Wednesday. But yeah, I mean, look. I mean, the Cubs, they showed a little bit of fight last night too. If you guys stayed up to watch that game, and look, I mean, I feel like, look, you're showing that fight. I mean, the fact that they took 2 out of 3 against the Red Sox, they took 2 out of 3 against the Brewers, and look, the fact that they've been, they won in different ways. They're pitching, they're hitting. Some of the young guys are contributing and such. I mean, we'll see what happens. Thankfully, Kyle Hendricks, his MRI came out clean, so he'll probably only miss 1 start, if that. So that's good news.
Yeah, he's on a 15-day IL.
Yeah, so that's good news. So hopefully you can be able to train him before the deadline, before he gets off that. If you do decide to trade, look, I don't know. I don't think Cubs fans know what Jed Hoyer's mindset is at this point. I mean, do you try to trade Contreras, trade Hendricks, maybe even Ian Happ? I mean, I don't want him to leave, but is this something like is this a guy that you want to try to build these pieces off of? And look, the pieces are there, and they've actually played some pretty decent baseball. The Cubs have. So, I mean, look, we're not saying. I think this is what the 4th series that they've won. So it'll be a tall order against the Dodgers, because especially since the Dodgers have been playing very well. We'll get to them in a second, but you gotta be. I know a lot of Cubs fans are ambivalent, but you gotta be feeling pretty good if you're a Cubs fan right now. You gotta see there are like little signs and little pieces here and there.
Yeah, also too, their rookie outfielder from earlier this season. I know he's been battling injuries, but Seiya Suzuki is
See
back.
ya.
Seiya,
See ya.
never mind. But he's back, and he had that inside the park home run the other day, which ended up in a loss. It wasn't Seiya's fault, but you could tell that he's healthy again. He's back. Christopher Morel, who's up for NL Rookie of the Year, he's still continuing to do his thing. Patrick Wisdom had another home run the other day, and also too, Rafael Ortega. Is he long for this Cubs team, leading off of for the Northsiders? So you still have some pieces there, but well, as you mentioned, will all of them be there come trade deadline time?
Yeah, and I think that's going to be. I mean, are these pieces that and I think that's the question Jay Horace got to ask. I mean, some of those guys are young, so especially if you want to buy into give Cubs fans hope that within the next year or two that you are going to compete. I think you probably want to try and keep some of these pieces. I mean, yeah, Contreras will probably be gone, and Hendricks too. Hopefully, he gets off the IL and without a hitch before the trade deadline. But yeah, I think look, I don't know. Look, nobody knows what Ted's mind is, so we don't know what he's going to do. We don't know how he does things. We know he worked under Theo Epstein for years. They know each other for years. Yeah, I know he has a totally different style. So we'll see what little tricks he has up his sleeve too as we get closer and closer to the end of the month. So we'll see what happens. Now, Sid, what about the rest of baseball? A lot of interesting things happened while we were out.
Yeah, the Toronto Blue Jays losing 2 out of 3 in Oakland. As we talked, we talked about yeah about the five people that were there in Oakland. Toronto losing 2 or 3 in Oakland earlier this week. The Tampa Bay Rays, they take care of Boston earlier this week at Fenway. Of course, the Yankees and Red Sox get it on this weekend. They actually started their 4-game series last night. Rafael Devers put the Red Sox on his back. The Yankees beat the Red Sox last night 6-5. But Rafael Devers, he's one of the last men to vote for the All-Star game. As I said this last year, Lakeena, you can back me up on this. I said this last year, and I'll say it again. If Yohan Moncada, who's currently hurt for the White Sox again, but if Yohan Moncada was healthy, look at Rafael Devers' numbers offensively. That's where Yohan Moncada should be. I'll leave it at that. But the Red Sox are struggling again this week. Hopefully they can turn around this series against the Yankees this weekend. As I mentioned, Toronto losing to Oakland on the road. The Kansas City Royals, even though they're having a bad season, they competed hard against the Houston Astros. I think the Astros took 3 out of 4 in that series. Kansas City could have came out of there with a split. Actually flirted with a no-hitter on Monday on 4th of July. But they came out short in that. So those are quick things that stuck out to me from our long week off.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I know we got a lot to catch up on, so we're trying to keep it a little bit of Cliff Notes version. I mean, the Guardians losing. Like I said, they got swept. 4-game sweep with the Tigers.
Yeah,
like what?
Shane Bieber got beat on Wednesday.
Yes, he did. He got definitely his worst outing of the season so far. It's just like if you're a Guardians fan, you're not very happy about that. Matt Scherzer got his first win coming off the IL with 10 strikeouts and no walks, passing Kurt Schilling for the second most in MLB history. Only Randy Johnson has more of those types of games with, that's a 28 career game with that. So big, nice sort of, haven't skipped a beat there. And hello, Seattle, bring out the Mariners. They've won 5 straight, including, sweeping winning 2 out of 3 against the A's and, winning a mini 2-gamer against the Padres, and of course, winning that first game against the Blue Jays 8-3 yesterday. So, it looks like they're starting to kind of creep up a little bit in that wild card slot as well. So their young guys are playing pretty well too. So, and there was a scary collision that happened yesterday in that Padres game. Let me look it up real quick. I don't know if you saw it, Sid, but that Giants Padres game that
I think it was Jackson Profar. They had to be carted off the field.
Yeah, he got there was a collision between him and if you saw the video, it's a little bit scary because Profar collapsed because he CJ Abrams kind of collided trying to get a fly ball, and he got up, but he collapsed. That was a scary video. Thankfully, it looks like he's gonna be okay. They kept him overnight. His vitals are good, so that's good news there. But very scary moment there too in that game. Of course, like I said, the Padres ended up winning that in 10. Let's see what else. Kyle Schwarber, 28 home runs so far this year. In 80 games. So that's I think he's one of the reasons why, especially with Bryce Harper still being out, he's one of the reasons why the Phillies are still kind of like right there in the wild card spot in the NL. So, having a DH, universal DH now, open up a whole new world for Mr. Schwarber.
A whole new world.
Careful, so we can't pay for that.
I didn't sing the whole song yet.
Well, yeah, 2 seconds. That's the thing. But he's definitely been keeping the Phillies afloat. So that's good news. Also, too, Sandy Alcantara had another solid outing for the Marlins. So
here come those Marlins.
Yeah, that's a guy that could probably definitely be a trade piece if you're a Marlins fan. The only thing is that his arms, he eats up a lot of innings literally, so that might be an issue there. Also, Shohei Ohtani, he became the first player since RBI became an official stat. He has now 10 strikeouts as a pitcher, 2 RBIs as a batter, and it's only based in one game a couple of days ago. So just create. It also like the Yankees become the first team to reach the 60 game win mark.
And also, too, the Atlanta Braves take 2 out of 3 at home against the St. Louis Cardinals. And speaking of those Yankees, they split their 2-game series in Pittsburgh against the Pirates.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So, yeah, so there's a lot of things that happened this week in baseball. Sid.
We did it.
Yeah, I was like, good thing we do the show twice a week now. So, because we miss out a lot when it's a long holiday weekend, if you will. Now, going into the schedule for tonight, you got Tampa and Cincinnati. Yes, that'll be on ESPN Plus. That game will be on ESPN Plus. Angels and Baltimore. That's another series. Miami and the Mets. 6:10. New York and Boston, of course, like you said, Sid. Washington and Atlanta. Minnesota and Texas. Cleveland and Kansas City. We talked about that game yesterday. Detroit and Chicago, of course, they continue their 4-game series. Hopefully, the White Sox can get back on track. And the first game of the Apple TV Plus doubleheader, you got Pittsburgh and Milwaukee. So for those of you who live in those areas, can't watch the game on your local various Bally sports networks tonight. So sorry about that. Philadelphia and St. Louis, that should be a fun one. Colorado and Arizona, they continue their series. Houston and Oakland, San Francisco and San Diego, they continue that series. So does the Cubs and the Dodgers. And the second game of the Apple TV Plus doubleheader, you got Toronto and Seattle. So sorry, folks in Toronto and Seattle. I don't know how that works in Toronto. I don't know if you guys in Toronto will be able to watch that game on Apple TV Plus. I don't know how that works, but yeah, just a little special note there for all you Blue Jays and Mariners fans. That should be a fun series too. That's they continue their weekend series.
And your Fox Saturday game of the week for tomorrow, or if you're listening to us on the replay on our podcast version today, it'll be the Yankees and the Red Sox at 6:15. Or for you West Coasters, you'll get San Francisco and San Diego at 6:15 Central Standard Time. That's 4:15 out there on the West Coast. So those are your Fox Saturday baseball game of the week. As we say in the broadcast business, check your local listings for game and time in your area. On the Peacock game of the week for Sunday morning, we'll have the Anaheim Angels at the Baltimore Orioles. And then, of course, Sunday Night Baseball, Red Sox and Yankees.
Big surprise. The Red Sox is
right. And that game will last 5 hours. It'll go 9 innings.
Right, probably. And also, too, the Angels and Orioles. I mean, look at the Orioles. The Orioles have been playing pretty well lately. So, these are now
currently 4 games under 500.
Yeah, so,
And they got one more win better than the White Sox. Who would have thunk it?
I'm going to go figure.
Right.
Go figure. But that should be a fun one, too.
Early in the year, they were better than what people thought. They're not a playoff team, but they're better than what people give them credit for. And we saw that up close if you're a White Sox fan a couple weeks ago.
Oh, yeah. Losing 3 out of 4 in that series.
Yeah.
So, so those guys, you might see some of those names moved for the Orioles in the trade deadline. So, that's your baseball schedule for this weekend. First half of our show comes to not first half, but first half hour is in the books. We got some big things happening in the world of the NFL. A big trade took place. And also to Justin Fields, Jay Cutler said some interesting things about Justin Fields that he wants to, in a lot of ways, kind of help mentor him. We'll have that and more NFL news coming up next. Sydney Brown, Lakeena McGee, Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, and we'll see you after this break.
Progressive presents the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago. panel appointed by Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot recommended the city explore enclosing Soldier Field with a dome, part of an effort to convince the Bears to remain in their lakefront home rather than leave for the suburbs. The team signed a purchase agreement last year for a 326-acre site in suburban Arlington Heights, about 30 miles northwest of Soldier Field. At the NHL draft Thursday, the Blackhawks started the day with no picks in the first round. After a series of trades, they selected Kevin Korchinski 7th overall, Frank Nazar 13th, and Sam Brinzel 25th overall. Prior to the draft, the Hawks traded all-star winger Alex DeBrincat to Ottawa for the numbers 7 and 39 picks this year, as well as a third-rounder in 2024. Then they traded Kirby Dach to Montreal for the 13th and 66th picks. Chicago acquired the 25th overall pick from the Maple Leafs along with goalie Peter Mrazek in exchange for a second-round selection. For lightning fast sports updates, download the Score app. It's free and one of the most popular sports apps in North America. The Tigers beat the White Sox 2-1 in Chicago on Thursday. Tigers rookie Bo Brisky threw two-hit ball into the 7th, out-pitching Dylan Cease. The Tigers won their 5th straight, taking the opener of a 4-game set against the reigning American League Central champs. Detroit led it 2-0 heading into the bottom of the 9th. Tim Anderson singled with 1 out. A.J. Pollock walked in. Luis Robert cut it to 2-1 with a double down the line, but Gregory Soto struck out Jose Abreu and Eloy Jimenez to earn his 17th save this season. Cease drops to 7-4. He gave up 1 run on 3 hits with 8 strikeouts. The Dodgers beat the Cubs 5-3 at Dodger Stadium. LA led at 3-0 after the second. Tony Gonsolin pitched 7 solid innings for his 11th win. He's the first Dodgers pitcher to start a season 11-0 since Alex Wood did it back in 2017. For lightning fast sports updates, download the Score app. It's free and one of the most popular sports apps in North America. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago.
Nobody protects you from mayhem like Allstate. I'm a speed bump. Did you hear what I said? I'm a speed bump. And if you have cut rate car insurance, the cost to reattach your muffler could really be a bump in the road. So switch to Allstate, save money, and be better protected from mayhem, like me.
Based on coverage and limits selected, subject to terms, conditions, and availability. In most states, prices vary based on how you buy. Allstate Bar and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
Thanks, everyone, for baking your way here on this toasty morning. Are you all ready to jam? Excellent. Before we get rolling, let's start by hashing out everything bagel we'll be discussing. Profit margins are okay, but they could maybe be butter. Sorry, I don't mean to waffle. Next quarter, it's all or muffin. Did you have a question, Sausage Patty?
My name's Patricia.
When you can't take your mind off breakfast, it matters where you stay. Delicious breakfast available at our Hilton family of brands. Hilton, for the stay.
Yeah, gotta get used to those rejoins. I love it. I love it.
Yeah. Gotta mix it up.
Yes, yeah, that's what we do here on Second City Sports. Welcome back to Second City Sports. We're live in living color on the Friday edition right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakeena. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG. Easy for me to say.
We got 90 minutes left of this extravaganza we call a sports talk radio show. You can go to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your questions and comments in the comment section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. And don't forget, you can watch us live on Roku TV. Where you can watch us live on demand, or if you happen to miss it while you're at work, or you happen to do errands like the rest of us have to, you can catch us later on demand. So you have a Roku TV, just go to the sports section and type in Sports Zone Chicago. You're right there. Justin Fields is running to that Roku TV. So should you. Get up, Chicago. Sports Zone Chicago is now on Roku TV. Lakeena, speaking of the Bears, you had some news on the front for the Monsters on the Midway. Training camp will be starting, I believe, in 3 weeks. And former quarterback had some interesting things to say, as this person, I think, is trying to get back into media. What do you have? What's the latest news on that?
Yeah, we got a lot of stuff with the Bears, and also too with the potential dome. You know, the mayor, our mayor, Lori Lightfoot, talking about putting the dome over it, perhaps in the last days. Yeah, in the last ditch effort to try to save the Bears. But again, we'll save that in a second. But Jay Cutler has been making the rounds. Some places. He's here in town. Did some for charity events. I know he guest co-hosted Waddle and Sylvie last week. But like you said, I think he's just trying to get himself back into the TV game. And he basically said that he'd be willing to mentor Justin Fields, and that he hopes that that Fields doesn't deal with the same sort of pressures and issues he dealt with when he was a quarterback here. And he even said he actually, I think I saw somewhere he even offered to mentor him. So I don't know, what do you think about his comments, Sid?
You would hope that the Bears organization will allow him to do that, or if they don't, they could. Jay can still find some way to mentor him some way through Fields' agency group or what have you. It wouldn't be a bad idea, because we know that being a quarterback in the National Football League isn't easy, and being a franchise quarterback in a top 10 market like Chicago, and especially for this charter franchise, is never easy either. So Jay Cutler, I believe, has a lot to offer. He's been through the wars, no pun intended. He's been through the battles where this team, we thought that was at a Super Bowl or playoff level, and it didn't work out. So he took all upon his shoulders. So Justin Fields, he's a likable character. We want him to succeed as Bears fans, as Chicago sports fans in general. So I think Jay Cutler has a lot to offer him. He's not that removed from the game.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this is sort of like trying to get his way back into doing like television, like you said. I think the problem is that he's kind of, on his podcast, he kind of showed like he tried to become like the more like the political, that kind of thing. Some networks might not want to deal with that. So, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure he's genuine in his comments. I mean, but again, we'll have to wait and see. I mean, we'll see. Like you said, we'll see if the Bears will let Jay kind of sort of like that big brother, to Justin. So we'll see. I mean, it'll be interesting though. I mean, it's interesting that he actually said that, but who knows? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Some people say, oh, he's just trying to get back to media and such. But like you said, like we've been saying, I mean, with his if you look through his podcast, he's kind of, his comments might not go over well with some folks. And so, like I said, some media companies might not want to deal with that. So, but who knows? We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens there, but I don't think it would be a bad idea. It wouldn't be a bad idea, but as we said, Lakeena, we'll get more into it as training camp starts in a few weeks. That the Bears are going through right now through a rebuilding process. I know some people had them at 7-8 wins. I don't see how that's going to go down, but they need all the help they can get. Jay Cutler can provide any service to Mr. Fields. I'm all for it.
Yeah, and
it wouldn't hurt.
Well, yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, we'll ask Marshall Harris, our buddy from CBS 2 Chicago. He'll join us in a few minutes, so we'll see what he says, and I'm sure he'll have a lot to say about this as well. Now, another Bears news that has been kind of gone down the pipe in the last couple of days. Chicago's mayor Lori Lightfoot has kind of this sort of came out like earlier this week while we were off. And apparently in a last-ditch effort, I guess, offering that maybe Soldier Field should put a dome over it. Maybe perhaps lure the Bears to stay. And apparently, let me get these comments. I guess the Bears said, no, we're gonna explore some stuff in Arlington Heights, all the land out there. Although in that case, nothing's been official yet. So again, this sort of push-pull back and forth and whatnot. They're looking at new stadium development in Arlington at Arlington Park, and they're not pursuing alternative stadium deals or sites, including renovations to Soldier Field. Now, again, you can tape those things because nothing's, like I said, nothing's been official yet. They're talking about they maybe not be official till the end of the year. So, what do you think about this, Sid?
It's just another poker move, in my opinion, Lakeena. How many times have we heard this through other pundits and other politicians, aldermen throughout the years? Chicago politics, don't you love it? It's a football game within itself. Let's put a dome over it. Okay, but it still doesn't solve your attendance problem. That's still, I believe, Soldier Field holds, I believe, 50,000 people, if I'm not mistaken.
About 50,000, yep.
Yeah, you can check up on that, but that's still the smallest crowd capacity in the National Football League. Okay, you put a dome over it. That's not going to do anything. Let's just say if they did, you know how politics works in the city. We're not going to try to turn it into a political show, but you know how politics works in the city. The Park District with the mayor's office and those some of them crazy aldermen. It'll take about 5 years to get that dome up, and who says they're going to build it right?
61.5 is the capacity for a soldier, but even still, that's still among the smallest in the league in the NFL. So, and also too, like, who's to say who's going to fit the bill? Probably us, the taxpayers. Probably.
Yes,
Who's going to pay
that's
for
going to
it?
happen. Yep.
And unless you get a sponsor, you do like a sponsorship thing where you probably get a company, a worldwide company, kind of fits some of the bill, and then maybe the bill won't be that much for us taxpayers. But yeah, I think this is sort of like a chess move, like you said, like, oh, you know what, we're not even thinking about doing other renovations or any other alternatives. We're concentrating on Arlington Park, and even though nothing's been official there yet, so who knows? But yeah, I mean, look, all this poker and such, and then it's already like starting to kind of creep up a little bit, and remember, she's also up for re-election. I'm talking about Mayor Lightfoot is, so that this might not look good. There are other issues that she has going on, but this I don't know, this is going to be the thing that kills her re-election chances. But this won't help. The fact that you were the mayor that lost the Bears for Chicago, so I don't know.
You have to wear that for life.
You do, and we'll see. I mean, look, this whole thing is just real. We'll ask Marshall about this too, but it's sort of. It's sort of, I don't want to say it's funny, but it's kind of crazy to me that this is still a thing, and we're doing like the back and forth and such. It's just like it's crazy.
Yeah, and we talked about this before, Lakeena, when the news broke about a year ago around this time about the Bears purchasing the land out there in Arlington Heights where it used to be the old racetrack. You get to build a 80 or 90,000 seat stadium, perhaps $100,000 seat stadium, sort of like SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles. That's the home of the Rams and Chargers, and soon home to the 2028 Summer Olympics. You can get a SoFi Stadium type stadium out there with more land. You can control your own parking. You can build some restaurants over there for the fans to stay. And and there'll be other concerts and other business conferences and events there at that stadium in Arlington Heights. So as far as game day is concerned for the Bears, you control that. You get more people in there, and of course you'll have that dome. So you won't have any weather delays or things of that nature. So more seats means more money. If you're the Bears, you would love to stay in Chicago, but Arlington Heights, if you could control what you do, you don't have to go through the Chicago Park District. Business-wise, this makes sense.
Well, yeah, and also too, I mean, if you are going to put a dome over Soldier Field, what kind of dome are we going to get? Like a retractable one, or
like in Atlanta?
Yeah, or is it going to be like one that they've had? I think I don't know who it was, but somebody said that like a new stadium that has a dome that they're not having problems with it because their stuff leaks. They've had like stuff water leaking and stuff like that. So and then look, I get it. Look, you want to be able to host Final Fours and to have concerts and bowl games and such. So and and perhaps even a Super Bowl as well. So yeah, I mean, look, the revenue is there for the city. I mean, but again, I think we'll see how this poker. I think this is the long game, if you will. So I think we're still playing that at the moment. So yeah, like I said, these are the Bears. So who's to say that they won't fumble on the goal line with this one with Arlington Heights? Because you never know, because they got to go through some other red tape as well. So
yes,
again, this is the beginning. We have not heard the last of this, folks.
Yeah, we haven't heard the last of it yet. This is just only the beginning. You're listening to Second City Sports, the Friday edition. We're live in 11 color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakeena. Let's keep it on the topic of the NFL. Baker Mayfield has a new home, Lakeena, and it's in Carolina with the Panthers.
Yeah, it is. And this news came across the pike on Wednesday, I believe. And I think what they're doing is I guess they're gonna they take the $7 million pay cut apparently too. They're asking him also for a conditional 2024 pick. So they're exchanging money. They'll pay about $4.9 million of Mayfield's remaining salary. While the Browns will pay like $10.5 million of that salary as well. So sort of split the difference. Pending a physical and such. They made it official. A fourth or fifth round. I guess that's depending on how his playing time is in Carolina. The Browns will get, and if it goes to a fourth round, they'll have to play. Mayfield will have to play 70% of his snaps. So yeah, it's sort of like it's kind of like a long sort of like little cliff notes of sort of like little notes here on what's part of the deal. So what do you think about this trade, Sid?
Well, I thought Baker Mayfield should have gone to Seattle, but I guess Pete Carroll believes in Geno Smith for what reason I don't know. Anyway, but I think this would be a good fit for Baker Mayfield. He can. I'm not going to say resurrect his career, but he can play for that new contract that he wants. And you think he'll beat out Sam Darnold, correct? We know Sam Darnold got out to a decent start last year. He got hurt. He played bad, then he got hurt. And they had to bring in Cam Newton, in which that didn't work out as well. So you would think that Baker Mayfield would play well, but the only offensive starter that I could think of on that roster right now is Chuba Hubbard, their backup running back to Christian McCaffrey. Though that dynamic duo, if both of them can stay healthy, in particular McCaffrey, who suffered through injuries last year, that's going to be a good running core for Baker Mayfield. That's going to help Baker out a lot. We saw what with Nick Chubb did and Kareem Hunt did for Baker Mayfield, especially 2 years ago when Cleveland made the playoffs. He had a solid running game behind him. My question is, who's Baker going to throw the ball to? Do you know?
I don't think. Yeah, I'll say because I think the core with the Browns is better than the core he's dealing with here with Carolina. I mean, going through their wide receiving core now. Again, this is sort of. We'll see what Matt Rule does. I mean, I know there's some people in Carolina say he should be on the hot seats, and he might be. But with these names, I mean, DJ Moore, I mean, a solid young player. Robbie Anderson, another solid young player. Tyrese Marshall Jr., that's another solid young player. So he has a young core. It just haven't been proven as such. They haven't had a quarterback consistently. So that's probably why, you wonder, can Baker Mayfield get the best out of those guys? Now, it'll be interesting, though, in week 1, Browns and Panthers play each other on September 11th. So that's week 1 of the season. So it's going to be very interesting, especially if Mayfield gets to start.
Yeah, which he should, barring injury, of course.
Yeah, at home. So you don't think he's going to want to play like lights out, especially after, them signing, the Browns signed Deshaun Watson and such, paying him all that money. We'll leave the legal stuff alone because that's still a lot of stuff to be sorted out, and that's not what we do here. But it'll be interesting what happens, because I think especially when we get to training camp and he looks good. I'm talking about Mayfield. He was probably a little banged up last year. He only played about 30% of the snaps. So again, we'll see. I mean, I think that this is an interesting trade, I think.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Plus, Carolina is still it's going to be tough, but they'll be in the mix for a wild card spot. In that division alone, you still had Tampa Bay, Tom Brady coming back for the Buccaneers. You still have Atlanta; they're rebuilding. The Saints, they still have a good defense, but offensively with the new head coach Dennis Allen, it's still going to be that's going to be challenging. So Carolina, I know you guys want a playoff spot, and rightfully so, but it's still going to be tough just within that division in the NFC South alone.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's gonna be tough because that's a pretty tough division. So they could be right there for the wild card spot, depending on what the other divisions in NFC does. I mean, like they said, they showed a little bit of promise last year. I mean, they were actually in a lot of their games, especially those last few games of the season, but they just didn't have the talent to pull it off. So we'll see if Mayfield kind of takes them they could be right there, like in the discussion for a wild card spot. So I think this is a nice trade. I mean, the Browns get rid of Mayfield, who clearly was not happy. Mayfield gets a fresh start. Probably not the team that he thought he was going to get into, but again, Carolina's got some young players. They just like I said, they just need a quarterback to throw it to them.
Yep, we'll see what happens with Carolina. You're listening to Second City Sports, the Friday edition. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid, Lakeena here with you. We still have a few minutes left before we close out hour number 1. And sticking with the NFL, the NFL has its first black female team president. For the Las Vegas Raiders, her name is Miss Sandra Douglas Morgan. She was part of the Nevada Gaming Control Board. She also worked with the Allegiant Company, which is the stadium is sponsoring, is named after. And she was part of the Nevada State COVID-19 Task Force. Lakeena, this is a historic hire. If you look at it from a historical perspective, the Raiders have always been a franchise as far as hiring people of different ethnicities in that front. Of course, finally, he's in the Hall of Fame. Tom Flores, the first Hispanic coach to win a Super Bowl. They hired Arshell as an interim head coach, and of course, a full-time head coach a year later. And that team reached the AFC Championship, giving its first full season. Of course, they had Amy Trask as an executive back in the day. Now she's working for CBS Sports. And now Miss Douglas Morgan is the first black president of the Las Vegas Raiders, hired by owner Mark Davis. Lakeena, I usually don't play the role of cynic just to be conceiving or anything like that. I'm wishing the young lady nothing but success. She obviously comes from a sports and a business background, working for these top companies in the world. But I just hope that the Raiders give her the resources that she needs to succeed. I just don't, let's be honest here. The NFL has been on this I apologize to the Black community tour for the last few years. I just do not want this to be a token hire. She has the resume, overqualified. She deserves it, but hopefully she gets a fair shot to succeed at her job.
Yeah, and I know, and this is what Mark Davis. This is what his dad did. His dad did. He was there when his dad hired. He wasn't born yet when they hired Tom Flores. When he had him as a quarterback, the first coach of color to win a Super Bowl, first coach of color to lead his team to a Super Bowl. And of course, Art Shell, of course, Amy Trask. We'll get to her in a second because she might be going to the Hall of Fame. We'll get to that in a second. But yeah, I mean, look, Miss Morgan, I mean, she has the resume. She's worked with Fortune 500 companies. She was part of if you guys are friends in Atlanta, saw she was part of the COVID release response. So this is a woman she's got the resume. Yeah, you could probably say she's overqualified, but look, I'm sure. Look, the Raiders is like the one team where you're kind of like, okay, you know what? Yeah, they've hired folks of color. They've hired women, probably more so than any organizations in the NFL. So I don't think this is a token hire. I think, look, I'm sure Mark Davis and the rest of the ownership group will give her the resource that she needs to make the particular moves and whatnot. And look, the Raiders are kind of right there. They're going to be competing for the AFC West. So I think, look, this is sort of like a great hire by the Raiders. This is sort of look, we're going through the ceiling. I think that's all you want. Just go through the ceiling and look, this is not one of those things where, they hired her because she's a Black woman or she's, and she's a woman or such. But this is definitely like one of those hires where you're like, yeah, she's got the resume. She's got the pedigree. She can they'll see if she can do the job. That's it.
Yeah, my fear is that I just don't want it to be a token hire. She's there for a couple years and then for some other reason, they make up a reason that she's not there anymore. That's just my fear, but I'm rooting for her just like everybody else. Like you said, she's overqualified. I'd rather you be overqualified than not qualified at all, correct? I'm just going by logic here. So, and like you said, the Raiders have been the organization in the NFL that has been on the forefront for change and for trendsetters. And as far as players as well, they're known as the renegades of the National Football League. They've given players 3 or 4 or 5, 6 different chances as long as you could play. So, it all fits in that storyline right there. But once again, just so we all could be clear, I want Miss Douglas Morgan to succeed at her job.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I understand that some people feel that way, but I think if any team that you can say, well, this is a token hire, the one team you can't say that, okay, they're actually hiring somebody who is really good. She just happens to be a woman, or in this case, a Black woman. It's the Raiders. So that's really all I gotta say about that. I'm sure. Look, good luck to her, and I'm sure she'll do just fine at her job. Now, the Hall of Fame, as I was talking about earlier, they announced their semifinalists among their coaching and their contributors, also their senior members too. Among some of the folks that have been among the semifinalists, you got Super Bowl winning head coaches Mike Holmgren and Mike Shanahan. Also, you got Sterling Sharp and Roger Craig and Billy White Shoes Johnson and Lester Hayes and Ken Anderson. And on the contributor side, among some of the other, on the coaching and contributor side, you got let's see, you've got John McVay, you have Art Modell, and you have Art Rooney Jr., the Steelers vice president, also too among Miss Amy Trask. So what do you think about some of these names I mentioned for Hall of Famer among the senior class and the contributors?
Well, all of those names deserved it. And like you said, Amy Trask, we talked about with the Raiders a moment ago, and she was a part of that movement. Excuse me, as far as getting females into high positions where it wasn't popular back then. She's one of those trendsetters, so she needs to be honored and respected in that way. Now, as far as the players are concerned, Sterling Sharp, his career was cut short, and he had to retire due to a bad foot injury. I'm sure he's kicking himself, no pun intended, that he couldn't last to that 96 season when the Packers finally won a Super Bowl over the New England Patriots. He definitely would have been a big part of the reason why that team won, of course. the late Reggie White and Sean Jones were one of the big reasons why that team won the Super Bowl. But Sterling Sharp, he was one of the best top and one of the best underrated receivers during that time. Remember, it was Jerry Rice, Chris Carter, Michael Irvin. Of course, with Jerry Rice and Michael Irvin, those teams were winning Super Bowls back then. But not too many people paid attention to Sterling Sharp until Brett Favre got to Green Bay. And of course, Mike Holmgren was there as well. And that helped turn that franchise around. So Sterling Sharp put up some numbers, and hopefully he needs to be honored and respected in that way, because we all know what his brother Shannon is doing. He had a great Hall of Fame career as a tight end, and he helped change the game as far as that position is concerned. Build it as a wide receiver playing that position. So Sterling Sharp deserves that honor.
Yeah, there are a couple of guys I'm a little surprised that, some of these guys actually did get had their careers end due to injuries. Like you said, Sterling Sharp was one. I know that Billy White Shoes Johnson, of course, I think knee injuries and such. I saw Mark Clayton, who was one of Dan Marino's top wide receivers when they were in Miami together. So there were like a lot of names that are out there. Of course, Roger Craig, I'm surprised he's not already in part of those 80s 49ers teams. So we'll see what happens. I'm sure we're gonna have like the going down to the wire here. August 16th, we'll select up to 3 senior members for final consideration and such. An expansion of that field will be, they expanded into starting in 2024. So they'll meet on the 22nd to get a coach and a contributor for the final class of for next year, I should say. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. But yeah, congrats to all, and hopefully, we can see some of these names on a Hall of Fame later this summer.
Yes, we'll see. We'll see some of those names on that list. Our number 1 in the books, I should say, is in the books. Our number 2 straight ahead as you're listening to Second City Sports Live in Live in Color on the Friday edition on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakeena. When we return, good friend of the show, sports director and anchor and host from CBS 2 Chicago, Mr. Marshall Harris, will hop on with us to talk about Chicago sports, and we'll have a little bit of fun with him as well. And plus, we'll get to the Blackhawks and a important hire in the NHL and all the other fun stuff. I'm Sid. That's Lakeena. You're listening to Sports Zone Chicago.
Progressive presents the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago. A panel appointed by Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot recommended the city explore enclosing Soldier Field with a dome, part of an effort to convince the Bears to remain in their lakefront home rather than leave for the suburbs. The team signed a purchase agreement last year for a 326-acre site in suburban Arlington Heights, about 30 miles northwest of Soldier Field. At the NHL Draft Thursday, the Blackhawks started the day with no picks in the first round. After a series of trades, they selected Kevin Korchinski 7th overall, Frank Nazar 13th, and Sam Brinzel 25th overall. Prior to the draft, the Hawks traded all-star winger Alex DeBrincat to Ottawa for the numbers 7 and 39 picks this year, as well as a third rounder in 2024. Then they traded Kirby Dach to Montreal for the 13th and 66th picks. Chicago acquired the 25th overall pick from the Maple Leafs along with goalie Peter Mrazek in exchange for a second round selection. For lightning fast sports updates, download the Score app. It's free and one of the most popular sports apps in North America. The Tigers beat the White Sox 2-1 in Chicago on Thursday. Tigers rookie Bo Brisky threw 2-hit ball into the 7th, out pitching Dylan Cease. The Tigers won their 5th straight, taking the opener of a 4-game set against the reigning American League Central champs. Detroit led it 2-0 heading into the bottom of the 9th. Tim Anderson singled with 1 out. A.J. Pollock walked, and Luis Robert cut it to 2-1 with a double down the line. But Gregory Soto struck out Jose Abreu and Eloy Jimenez to earn his 17th save this season. Cease drops to 7-4. He gave up 1 run on 3 hits with 8 strikeouts. The Dodgers beat the Cubs 5-3 at Dodger Stadium. LA led at 3-0 after the second. Tony Gonsolin pitched 7 solid innings for his 11th win. He's the first Dodgers pitcher to start a season 11-0 since Alex Wood did it back in 2017. For lightning fast sports updates, download the Score app. It's free and one of the most popular sports apps in North America. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago.
Nobody protects you from mayhem like Allstate. I'm a speed bump. Did you hear what I said? I'm a speed bump. And if you have cut-rate car insurance, the cost to reattach your muffler could really be a bump in the road. So switch to Allstate, save money, and be better protected from mayhem, like me.
Based on coverage and limits selected, subject to terms, conditions, and availability. In most states, prices vary based on how you buy. Allstate Bar and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
Thank Thanks, everyone, for baking your way here on this toasty morning. Are you all ready to jam? Excellent. Before we get rolling, let's start by hashing out everything bagel will be discussing. Profit margins are okay, but they could maybe be butter. Sorry, I don't mean to waffle. Next quarter, it's all or muffin. Did you have a question, Sausage Patty?
My name's Patricia.
When you can't take your mind off breakfast, it matters where you stay. Delicious breakfast available at our Hilton family of brands. Hilton for the stay.
Gotta love those rejoins. Gotta love those rejoins. Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports. We're live and they live in color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakeena McGee, which is she. I am Cindy Brown. Hey, that's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at CK80. Once again, it's CK80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
And yet we have less than an hour left of this extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show. You have any questions or comments for us, you can go to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your questions or comments in the comments section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. And don't forget, you can watch us live. We are now on Roku TV. We're on Roku TV. You have a Roku television. Just go to the sports section, type in Sports Zone Chicago, and you're right there. If you don't have a Roku TV, just download that Roku TV app. Do the same thing. Go to the sports section, type in Sports Zone Chicago. Voila! You can get us right there. You can watch us live on demand, or you can watch us later if you have to go to work or do some errands like we all do. You can watch us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. 365 days in a year and 52 weeks out of a year. Liam Henches is telling you Sports Zone Chicago is now on Roku. Tell him, Liam. So you can catch us on Roku. Yes, he is very excited. We are now on Roku TV as well. So we have options for you. We're the first Chicago sports radio app to have we're on Roku TV. So check us out on Roku TV. As we wait our guest, Lakeena, let's get into the Blackhawks. Blackhawks talk. We have a retirement to report coming up, but as Lakeena is crying for yours truly, yesterday was the NHL draft. Alex DeBrincat is no longer on the team. Kirby Dach, who we saw some progress from despite some injuries, he's no longer on the team either. Lakeena, new GM Kyle Davidson, he's not playing, and this is his program going forward. We all know that rebuilds in hockey usually take longer. I really thought they was going to keep DeBrincat. I know he's a free agent after next season, but I guess Kyle Davidson didn't see DeBrincat as part of his plan. Of course, you still have Jonathan Taves and Patrick Kane on the squad. He has to go through with them to see if they're going to be on board, at least at the beginning part of this rebuild. But I wasn't happy about them trading DeBrincat yesterday. I know there was rumors leading up to the NHL draft, but I just don't like them getting rid of DeBrincat. He's really the only goal scorer that you have. I know Patrick Kane has gotten better with time over the last few years as he's gotten older, but I don't think the Blackhawks got enough, in my opinion, for DeBrincat. That's just
Yeah, it just feels like they kind of, I don't want to say Ottawa fleeced the Blackhawks, but kind of feel like they did. They probably could have, they got a 7th overall pick, from yesterday's draft. They got 39th overall pick, which is tonight. Actually, it's going on right now, actually, as we speak. And also a 2024 third rounder. I've heard various folks, our buddy, Pat Boyle, who does the pre and post game for the Hawks on NBC Sports Chicago.
Friend of the show.
Friend of the show. We got to get him back on at the soon. He said that he doesn't feel like the Hawks got enough. Mark Lazarus, who covers the Hawks for The Athletic, he says they didn't get enough. So basically, a lot of people have said that hopefully when Marshall joins in a little bit, we'll see how he feels. I'm sure he'll feel the same way, that the Hawks didn't get enough for him. And I feel like, okay, so, and also you traded Kirby Dach as well. I know he showed a little bit of promise, but injuries kind of, got to him a little bit. And also you got, during the draft last night, they were very busy. Of course, we'll get to their draft picks a bit, but they also got Peter Mrazek from Toronto for the 38th pick. So, they've been pretty busy. Now it looks like we're gonna have $10 tickets, I guess, next year for the Blackhawks. So
yeah,
it looks like it. Now, depending on if Taves and Kane decide that they want to get traded, if Kyle Davidson feels like they should trade him at some, they feel like they should get traded, or one or both of them. So I don't know. I mean, I feel like this is sort of one of those things where you're kind of like, okay, all right, okay, a rebuild. It's happening.
Yeah, here's the thing. I know the Blackhawks fans are expected this team to compete, but let's look at the last several years, Lakeena, with now former GM Stan Bowman at the helm, was at the helm. After 2015, really going back and looking at it now 7 years ago, we know that team was getting older and some of their skills started declining. We saw that in a couple of seasons afterwards when they barely made the playoffs with Seabrook and Duncan Keith. We have news on him coming up in just a moment. But with some of those aging veterans and Marion Holson with his condition, which ended up forcing him to retire. So Stan Bowman was still trying to get one more cup out of that group. And he should have known better that he wasn't setting this franchise up for long-term success. I saw a list yesterday, Lakeena. I'm sure you saw this too on social media. All the draft picks that when Stan Bowman took over up until he got axed earlier this season, they're no longer on the team. That's not a way to sustain success. I can understand the early part of his tenure because the Blackhawks team was young enough, they were good enough competing for Stanley Cups every year. But after 2015, you shouldn't have seen the light that, well, I got to stockpile these picks and get something out of them, which he failed miserably in doing this. So Kyle Davidson, the new GM, is cleaning up the last remaining pieces of the mess that Stan Bowman made. And now, in my opinion, it's going to take a little bit longer since you traded to bring it to rebuild this thing. Now, as far as Kane and Taves are concerned, if both of them want to stay, good. But I think both of them will move on at some point. But as I said before, Lakeena, a couple of weeks ago, Taves, you can get something for him, maybe not like a few years ago, but you can get, for like a better term, using air quotes here, crumbs for him at this point. If Kane wants to stay, let him stay. But if he wants to go, you got to let him go too.
Well, yeah, it's one of those things where you have to sell tickets, right? And the Brinket was kind of like one of the few guys, other than of course Canes and Taves and Canes, Taves and Canes, I should say, that they were sort of like the draw. And now with the Brinket out, and Taves is he's 36 now, so and Kaner is about to be 34. So they're getting up there in age, and I feel like at this point, especially if Taves wants to leave, I think let him leave. And if try to get something for him, I mean, if Kaner wants to say, okay, fine, let him stay. But again, you got to need something to kind of get people to sort of locked in, to watch the Blackhawks, because you saw the crowds over there at the UC, especially in the last couple of months of the season. The crowds weren't very good. I mean, and look, Sid was able to go to a couple of Blackhawks games, so you might be like, hell, I might be going to some of those games too this year. So good, because it might be so inexpensive. So so it's definitely, I mean, I don't know, like the rebuild's happening, it looks like. And of course, Kevin Korchinski, who's a defenseman from Canada, was one of their picks from the draft last night. So he's definitely asked more depth at defensive men's spot and such. So looks like I'm hoping that the Blackhawks don't become an afterthought, but I don't know.
Yeah, with this rebuild, you will become an afterthought, especially in this city where we expect our teams to win. And so we'll see what happens. New head coach Luke Richardson has a lot of work ahead of him. He knows that, and so we'll see what happens on that front. Lakeena, speaking of the tickets, our good buddy Jay Hood, I know he supports us, watching us via Facebook. We got to get him on this show too. I know he's a busy guy, but he said this during that Bulls rebuild. Remember during those Scott Skiles years after they tried to recover from the Tim Floyd, Bill Cartwright years?
Right.
If you want to go watch Bulls basketball at a reasonable price, go watch the other team. It looks like that's what many hockey fans will be doing in this city.
Yeah, so that's what's going to happen here. And I feel like, I mean, you don't want to, if you're the Blackhawks, you don't want to be at a point where there's just a footnote in the city. So especially what has happened and transpired the last few months. So you don't want to get to that point now. Hopefully, I'm not banking on it, but hopefully maybe within the next year or two, they can kind of be like right there, sort of, be reasonable and kind of get folks to show up. But
at least competitive.
You'll at the very least be right there. So I don't know, it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with the Blackhawks. They still have a long way to go. You're listening to Second City Sports, the Friday edition on Sports Zone Chicago. We're live in 11 color. Sid Lakeena here with you. Our guest Marshall Harris from CBS2 Chicago will be coming up in a couple of minutes, and we'll get his take about the Blackhawks and of course other happenings around the Chicago sports scene. Lakeena, let's keep it on the Blackhawks. Duncan Keith just announced his retirement. The news came out about an hour 45 to 45 minutes ago. He's calling in a career after 17 seasons. Of course, he played with the Edmonton Oilers this past season. Of course, that team reached the Stanley Cup in the Stanley Cup playoff. They reached the Western Conference Finals, losing to the now Stanley Cup champion Colorado Avalanche. Of course, Duncan Keith was part of those 3 Stanley Cup teams in Chicago, 2010, 2013, and 2015, and won the playoff MVP, the Conn Smythe Trophy in 2015 as being the best player in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Lakeena, besides the Duncan Teeth moment from Game 4 of the 2010 Western Conference Final against the San Jose Sharks, what was your favorite Duncan Keith moment?
Well, besides the teeth moment, because that's definitely going to be his defining moment here. But look, he's made some big shots and big passes for the Hawks during those 3 Stanley Cup runs, and he's definitely one of those guys where he didn't want to leave, but again, of course, salary cap casualty and such. So he won the Norris Trophy twice, and he also won the Conn Smythe Trophy in 2015. So he's definitely going to be in a Hall of Fame in a few years, probably first ballot. And I feel like, he's definitely like one of those guys where he's definitely right up there with with Kane and Taves and Sharp. He's definitely right there in that 3 or 4 spot as like those top teams from those Stanley Cup teams. So,
do you think that the Blackhawks were? I don't want to say give him a statue because they have a whole bunch of people they'll give statues to. Do you think they should retire his number 2 jersey? I think they should.
They should. I mean, he's definitely
because you can argue he's the 3rd best defenseman in that franchise behind Chelios.
Yep,
and Pierre Palat.
Yeah, well, you're going on the Wayback Machine there, Sid. But I think he's definitely, you're going back to the 70s there, Sid. But he's definitely right up there, and I think that he will get his number retired. I think he'll definitely be an ambassador for the team. Yeah, even though Edmonton is close to where he's at, but he also is, again, Chicago. I think he met his wife here and such. So I think definitely, I think he'll definitely be sort of like that guy. I think he'll definitely have an ambassador role. You're probably going to see him a lot over at the UC. They're going to need something to kind of sell it. So, but I think he's definitely a Hall of Famer, and I'm sure his teeth. I'm sure he found a good dentist for that teeth too for years. But
love it.
So I think that he'll definitely. They'll definitely honor him at some point. I think.
You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, the live Friday edition. We're live in 11 color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakeena. Don't forget you can catch us on Roku TV live in 11 color. No pun intended. You can you have a Roku TV. Just go to the sports section, download that Sports Zone Chicago app, and you're right there. You can watch us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days out of the year. You can watch us live. You can watch us on demand later if you have stuff to do, just like the rest of us. Lakeena, let's continue to do that hockey. Mike Greer, the former NHL player, he is now the new general manager of the San Jose Sharks. They're going through the same thing as the Blackhawks. They're trying to once a Western Conference powerhouse in contention for playoffs and Stanley Cups every year. Of course, the San Jose Sharks have been struggling the last couple of years. Their former player now comes back home to run the franchise.
This is a great moment. If you saw him in the presser on Wednesday when it was official, you tell the emotion. He's the 6th active person to become the GM of the team that he played for in their career. So he was definitely a trailblazer in that sense. I mean, he was part of that group that kind of sort of led the charge for some of some of the Black players we saw, like PK Subban and such. So he's definitely kind of like the guy that sort of, he's got the front office and such. He played for the Oilers, he played for the Caps, he played for the Sabres also, as well as the Sharks. But of course, his, a lot of his best moments were with the Sharks. And it'll be interesting to see what he does. I mean, again, I don't think this is a token hire. I mean, I know that the organization loves him. They love him there. He was still going there from time to time and such. So, this is definitely kind of like, hopefully he'll have the resources that he needs to kind of build that team back. Because it kind of been sort of, I don't want to say the downslide, but it kind of been mediocre the last few years. So it'll be interesting to see what he does. I know that George. So it's going to be. I know if you saw also the moment that, last night during the NHL draft, I mean, you can tell how much emotion that there was there and how he was, when he got, the call. I'm sure if you saw his interview with Emily Kaplan after he did his first pick. I mean, you can tell sort of like the emotion and such. So, I think he's saying he can now relax and just, just do his job. And he's been going through the ranks too. So the guy's more than qualified.
Yeah, he's well more than qualified. And like I said, I'm rooting for him personally. Just like I said about Miss Douglas Morgan of the Raiders last hour, just give them a fair shot to do their job, and I think they'll be fine. He's, like you say, he's not too removed from his playing days in the NHL. He can relate to the players on that level, and he can give them some pointers on how to survive in the NHL as well. Because we all know, Lakeena, especially financially growing up, especially the people that have your reflection in mind, it is even harder, not just from an economic standpoint, but just from a cultural standpoint as well. We got to get Evan F. Moore back on this program, down the line. He has a book about the game misconduct with the culture of hockey, and so many players, and especially players that reflect our reflection that have gone through. But he can relate to some of those players in that on that front, and just giving them pointers on how to survive in the highest hockey league in the land. And so I think from that standpoint, he'll be fine.
Yeah, he is. And like I say, it'll be interesting to see what kind of moves that they make and such. Look, like I said, I'm sure they'll give him the resources that he needs. I'm sure he'll be able to kind of, be right there, sort of like, so the Sharks can be a contending team in the Western Conference again. So yeah, I think this is a great hire. Like I said, this is an emotional hire. And we'll see what happens. I'm sure they'll give him as much time as he needs. And look, he's definitely kind of like that. I remember him playing at some of those games. And he's been honest with some of the stuff that he went through when he was playing. So, I'm sure he can probably also relate to, especially if they bring on, they draft a black, player or a player that looks like us. So yeah, I think, good for him and congrats to him.
Yeah, congrats to him. Like I said, we'll be rooting for him as he takes on this new venture. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, the Friday edition. Lakeena and Sid here with you, riding along with you until the top of next hour. Marshall Harris of CBS2 Chicago is coming up. He'll join us to give us his thoughts about Chicago sports and about these two moves for the NHL and the NFL. Lakeena, since we have some time left before the bottom of the hour, let's turn our attention to college football. I'll just read you the headline, and I want your comments. We'll commence. The Pac-12 and the ACC reportedly talking about broadcast alliance that would shift SHIFT, the Pac-12 network's content to the ACC network.
Yeah, of course, Barrett Sally, who is a college football writer, he's been doing this for years. He said that report's not true. So again, I mean, this is one of those things where you're just sort of like, okay, what the hell is going on here? Of course, you got USC and UCLA, of course, going to the Big Ten, and then now you've got this report, which has been debunked by, like I said, by Mr. Sally and various other sources. So I don't know. I mean, Jesus, I'm at that point where I'm kind of like, we were told about 20 years ago this probably would happen. That, of course, you got conference realignment and such, and now people are pressed. People feel like Notre Dame is getting pressure to perhaps maybe join a conference and such. So it's definitely kind of crazy. Of course, there was another report that came out that said that Florida State, Clemson, and North Carolina were going to negotiate with the ACC. Which that turned out to be debunked. So as far as the ACC, I mean, okay, so how are they going to do this? They're going to be traveling all over the country. You're going from North Carolina all the way over to, I guess, Washington, I guess. So that's about it. Or I guess you want to say, Cal, Berkeley. So I don't, the geography is going to be a little bit weird for some people. So, but again, I guess, people stopped caring about geography when Penn State joined the Big Ten. So in '93, so who knows? But I'm just like, I'm just over it at this point. Like, oh God, like here we go again. My head hurts.
Yeah. See, here's the thing. Pac-12 Commissioner Larry Scott really screwed this thing up. And with that network, with that Pac-12 network, I know they had to have some layoffs a couple of years ago, just like everybody else around the sports broadcasting industry. But it's just the Big Ten with that move with USC and UCLA, they're going to get with their next TV deal. Each school in the Big Ten is going to get $100 million a piece, and that's why we said this last week. That's why these moves are being made right now. Of course, with Texas and Oklahoma joining the SEC, I believe next year, Lakeena, or 2 years later. Next year.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
next year. So they're going to get a big payday from the SEC and ESPN. So with the Pac-12 joining with the ACC, if this happens, well, it'll boost them up a little bit, but they're not going to be in the same league as in the Big Ten. And I read an article yesterday, and I heard some commentary on one of those LA sports radio stations that UCLA, one of the reasons why they made the move to the Big Ten, they were $60 million in the hole.
Yeah, the AD, Martin Drummond, who's been there for the last couple of years, he said, they would have had to cut sports, and this is some of the most accomplished sports. I guess volleyball, softball, which just won a championship a couple of years ago. Among a few other sports that they're saying that they might have had to cut some of those sports, and they were $65 million in debt, so that's why they made the move. So. I mean, so it was about money. You just admitted it, folks. So, like you basically said what we all thought that was the case. That you made the move because it was about money. So, I mean, of course, money is sort of the root of this. And yes, the NILs are definitely kind of like a game changer from the player side. And yeah, I mean, you're going to have like inconsistent, like, start times with some of these games and some of all these other things. So yeah, it's gonna, like I said, this is gonna be interesting because Texas and Oklahoma are gonna be joining next, not this coming season, but next season. UCLA and USC will be joining the Big Ten not too long after that, and who knows what stuff's gonna go on with the Big 12 and the Pac-12, what they're gonna do, and the ACC and whatever Notre Dame does. I mean, look, it's getting to the point where there's just basically chaos at this point, and like I don't know. I mean, you gotta think some of the sports gonna be affected. Like you got. Of course, basketball. We talked about it last week. Softball and baseball and gymnastics and some of the track. I mean, all the sports are going to be affected in some form by these moves. So you're gonna have ask folks to come in at 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning to start their meets. Or in the case of football, you gotta especially with UCLA, USC join the Big Ten, they're going to be dealing with 9 a.m. Pacific time kickoffs, so they got to get their body clocks into it. So. The whole thing is just crazy, and I don't know. I mean, I guess super conferences, here we come.
Yeah, as we said last week, Kirk Herbstreit of ESPN said it best. It's going to look like the AFC and the NFC in the NFL. We all know that it's all about money at the end of the day. I think, remember, Lakeena, we had Dan Wolken from USA Today. We got to get him back on at some point. We had him on doing our radio show days. We were actually in the studio. And I believe he said in 2025, they can NCAA can open up discussions about expanding the college football playoff. I think these another reason why these big moves are happening too, because you can get more. We assume it's going to be an 8-team or perhaps a 12-team college football playoff, and so that's why these super conferences are forming right now. And that's another reason in Notre Dame. And we talked about this before, Lakeena. Do you really want to give up that $100 million check from NBC? Because I know they'll get paid more if they join the Big Ten, but they don't want to give up their independence.
Yeah, and I've been trying to tell folks that, and because some people say, well, they might not have a choice, but no, you don't get it. They're getting like 80 to 90 million from NBC. They don't have to share with anybody. With some of the revenue that come with the TV contracts once they finally kick in, they're gonna have to split it up with various their fellow members. So if you're Notre Dame, why the heck do you want to f around with that? So I can't see it now. Now again, could they may not have a choice in a couple of years, probably, but I think right now, like if you're Notre Dame, I know BYU is going to be joining the Big 12, and I know they tried it too, but they're not, to their credit though, they're not Notre Dame when it comes to that kind of getting the more revenue streaming. So they may join a conference. I'm talking Notre Dame maybe in the next 3 or 4 years, but right now they're like, I'm not good. I'm not joining no Big 10 or ACC. I'm not doing that.
Yes, like I said, we'll see what happens with the Notre Dame. Lakeena, I want to ask you this, since we have a couple of minutes left before we break for the bottom of the hour. What do you think this is going to do for HBCUs? Or do you think they'll all those schools should form one conference on their own and trying to force themselves for a super conference? What do you think?
You know what? I don't know. I mean, it's interesting that you say that. I guess we got our marshals here, so we'll take a quick break first after this, and then we'll bring him on. But that's a good question. That's a question we should ask Marshall. That, I mean, I'm wondering, like, do you perhaps if you're the SWAC or the MEAC, you've had some of your guys leave. I think Hampton left. I think Morgan State also left too. So I don't know. That's an interesting question, but yeah, I mean, do you form your own conference to try that? Other of the smaller conferences like the American, they kind of follow suit. So who knows?
Yeah, quick timeout. We'll bring on our guy Marshall Harris from CBS 2 Chicago. He says sports director and anchor and host, and we'll get into the Chicago sports and the issues surrounding college football and more. I'm Sid. That's Lakeena. You're listening to the Friday edition of Second City Sports live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
Progressive presents the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago. A panel appointed by Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot recommended the city explore enclosing Soldier Field with a dome, part of an effort to convince the Bears to remain in their lakefront home rather than leave for the suburbs. The team signed a purchase agreement last year for a 326-acre site in suburban Arlington Heights, about 30 miles northwest of Soldier Field. At the NHL Draft Thursday, the Blackhawks started the day with no picks in the first round. After a series of trades, they selected Kevin Korchinski 7th overall, Frank Nazar 13th, and Sam Brinzel 25th overall. Prior to the draft, the Hawks traded all-star winger Alex DeBrincat to Ottawa for the numbers 7 and 39 picks this year, as well as a third rounder in 2024. Then they traded Kirby Dach to Montreal for the 13th and 66th picks. Chicago acquired the 25th overall pick from the Maple Leafs along with goalie Peter Mrazek in exchange for a second round selection. For lightning fast sports updates, download the Score app. It's free and one of the most popular sports apps in North America. The Tigers beat the White Sox 2-1 in Chicago on Thursday. Tigers rookie Bo Brisky threw two-hit ball into the 7th, out pitching Dylan Cease. The Tigers won their 5th straight, taking the opener of a 4-game set against the reigning American League Central champs. Detroit led it 2-0 heading into the bottom of the 9th. Tim Anderson singled with 1 out. A.J. Pollock walked, and Luis Robert cut it to 2-1 with a double down the line. But Gregory Soto struck out Jose Abreu and Eloy Jimenez to earn his 17th save this season. Cease drops to 7-4. He gave up 1 run on 3 hits with 8 strikeouts. The Dodgers beat the Cubs 5-3 at Dodger Stadium. LA led at 3-0 after the second. Tony Gonsolin pitched 7 solid innings for his 11th win. He's the first Dodgers pitcher to start a season 11-0 since Alex Wood did it back in 2017. For lightning fast sports updates, download the Score app. It's free and one of the most popular sports apps in North America. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago.
Nobody protects you from mayhem like Allstate. I'm a speed bump. Did you hear what I said? I'm a speed bump. And if you have cut-rate car insurance, the cost to reattach your muffler could really be a bump in the road. So switch to Allstate, save money, and be better protected from mayhem, like me.
Based on coverage and limits selected, subject to terms, conditions, and availability. In most states, prices vary based on how you buy. Allstate Bar and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
Thanks, everyone, for baking your way here on this toasty morning. Are you all ready to jam? Excellent. Before we get rolling, let's start by hashing out everything bagel we'll be discussing. Profit margins are okay, but they could maybe be butter. Sorry, I don't mean to waffle. Next quarter, it's all or muffin. Did you have a question, Sausage Patty?
My name's Patricia.
When you can't take your mind off breakfast, it matters where you stay. Delicious breakfast available at our Hilton family of brands. Hilton for the stay.
Welcome back to Second City Sports. This is our last segment of the day and last segment for us for our short week here. We're live in the living color on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakeena. We have less than a half hour left. That's extravaganza we call a sports talk radio show. You have a question or comment for our next guest, you can go to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in questions or comments in the comment section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. Don't forget, you can catch us now live in the living color on Roku TV. We own the Roku TV. You have a Roku TV, just go to the sports section, type in Sports Zone Chicago. You can watch us right there. You can watch us live as you probably are doing right now, or you can watch us on demand 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Sports Zone Chicago is now on Roku TV. And joining us right now to discuss Chicago sports in college football, shuffling, and much more, we're bringing our good friend of the show. He's the sports director, host, and anchor at CBS 2 Chicago, WBBM Television. He is the one, the only, Mr. Marshall Harris. Marshall, welcome back to the show. How are you, my man?
I'm good. How are you guys doing? Sorry for my lateness, but it's great to be on with you guys again.
No problem. No problem. You're a busy bee, so yeah, we totally get it. Sid, I think you have the first question for Mr. Harris.
Yes. Before we went to the break, we were discussing about the college football shuffling with USC and UCLA now going to the Big Ten, and we're discussing about what it's going to do with the HBCU schools. But we'll ask you the first question. What does this do to the Big Ten now? Now that they're in the top, they got the top 3 markets in the country.
Makes them as powerful as ever. And, right now, the Big Ten, much like if you've seen Avengers Infinity War, they're just out here collecting stones. And they got to like all the stones they're collecting. And I don't think they're done collecting stones, to be honest. Obviously, there's the Notre Dame card that can be played at any time if they can get them to join the conference and just make it powerful. Their goal is to become the preeminent conference in college sports. And right now it's a 2-horse race between them and the SEC. And you could argue with having, the top 3 markets in the country television-wise, they are in a position to do that. I'm kind of surprised they didn't go after the Arizona schools, another top 15 market in Arizona State. You look at what the Big 12 is talking about doing with getting some of the leftovers from the Pac-12 or maybe even a Big 12 Pac-12 merger. I'm really interested to see how this plays out. People have been talking about this for over a decade now, that eventually we're just going to have like 2 or 3 conferences, maybe 4. But I think it's going to end up being 2 main conferences and everybody else kind of gathers up in kind of sub-tier conferences. Being a guy who grew up in SEC country, going to Mississippi State University, I don't know how much more the SEC can do if they want to maintain what we'll call regional, I'm trying to think of the word for it, but not consistency, but just maybe a regional integrity. But really what we've learned over the last 10 plus years is regional integrity takes a back seat to the almighty dollar. And that's what this is about. It's been like this from day one. The checks keep getting bigger for those media rights. And I don't expect this to slow down anytime soon until everything has been conquered. It's like if you go back to pre-United States of America days, and even before that, when every corner of the world had not been touched yet by Western civilization, that's what's going on right now. These big boy conferences are like, let's milk all the resources we can out of everything and turn it into money for us. And no one should be surprised by this, and no one should expect this to be done until they've looked in every nook and cranny and seen, well, if we add, this middling team, but get this television market, now we're covered maybe in the top, 10, 15 markets in the country.
Oh gosh, I mean,
like I said, regional integrity takes a back seat. This is not about what region you're from. They're the Big Ten, and it's a Midwestern conference in idea only. Same for the SEC. I mean, Texas isn't the South. Texas is Texas. That's a different thing. But now they've got the South, the Mid-South. Wouldn't be surprised if they go a little further north in the SEC to get some more teams. But clearly, the Big Ten has let you know we are the Big Ten. Emphasis on the word big.
Look back with Penn State. I mean, when they joined the conference in the early 90s, I mean, that whole regional thing, went out the window there. So that kind of started it all.
And that's the thing. People growing up now don't even consider Penn State. They wouldn't see what the big deal is with them being in the Big Ten, because now you'll get used to it.
Right.
You'll get used to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. So I'm a traditionalist, Marshall, as you know. So yeah, I'm just it's all crazy, but but yeah. Well, let's talk about White Sox. We'll probably get back to the college stuff in a little bit, but the White Sox. I know Sid's not in a very good mood right now. I know other White Sox fans aren't either, with everything going on. Can they right the ship?
Sure, they can. Will they? That's a different question. I think in theory they have enough power, literal, power at the plate to turn things around whenever they feel like it, if they can get things going. But there's been nothing to indicate that they can get things going, except for if you want to say, well, they've been hurt and now they've got people back. I mean, you can't lose a game 2-1 with Dylan Cease on the mound, giving up 1 run over 6 innings. You lose those games. There won't be a turnaround. So I think we just have to wait and see how good the hitting. Sorry, let me back up. We know how good the hitting can be. How consistent will they be? That is the question.
Yeah, I want to ask you about me and Lakeena talked about this to start the show. Give us your take about the White Sox lack of baseball situation, lack of attention. I was at the game on Monday where they had that crazy triple play. Adam Engel did not tag up, and just the bad base running and just a bad defense. Give us your take on that. I said at the beginning of the show, I'm a fan, but I about had it. This has been going on for the last few years, even before they started winning last year. You're not going to win consistently in the MLB and doing that.
They are not pretty. They captain caveman teams over the head. That's how they got to the playoffs the last couple of years, is by doing that. Do they do the little things well? Absolutely not. Base running, defense, basic baseball things they don't do well. And when you can't captain caveman your way out of a situation, slugging, this is what you get. No one should be surprised, because that's why they couldn't win in the playoffs. It's because they couldn't do the little things. Well, you got to be a fine-tuned machine when October rolls around. They are not a fine-tuned machine. Do they have good players? Absolutely. Do they have a Hall of Fame manager? Sure. But there's nothing that tells me that any of the things that's wrong with the White Sox is going to get any better with the White Sox in terms of the way they play baseball.
Do you see them being buyers or sellers by the end of the month?
I think they're going to have to take the approach that where if there's a smart play out there, they can go get it. But I can't even really say that with a straight face. Here's why. There's more playoff teams and more playoff spots this year. That means it's always going to be a seller's market. So that means, do they really have the assets from a farm standpoint to go out and get guys? I don't really think so, compared to some of these other teams that are in the wild card hunt. And let's be clear, the White Sox are in the wild card hunt just as much as they're in the division hunt right now, with where they stand in the standings. So I would say they'd be neither. And, Rick Hahn can spin it and say, hey, we're just waiting for our guys to get healthy. It's like we're trading for players because we finally got our healthy guys back. So maybe that's what happens. But I can't see them being super active sellers unless they come out of this, 19-game stretch. I guess the trade deadline's coming right at the end of that 19-game stretch against 19 straight division opponents. If they play better than they've played in the first 4 games, which they haven't played well, they've lost all but one, then maybe. But I can't see them being super aggressive in the trade market. 1, because they don't have anything to give up. 2, because it's going to be a seller's market. And the prices, yesterday's price is not today's price. I'll just put it like that.
Yeah, you couldn't have said it any better. Friend of the show and CBS2 sports director and anchor and host, Mr. Marshall Harris, is joining us right here on the Friday edition of Second City Sports. We're live and in living color on Sports on Chicago. Sid, Lakeena here with you. Let's go to the hardware to talk about the Chicago Bulls. Marshall, of course, they drafted Dalen Terry. They signed Andre Drummond. They signed backup point guard Gordon Dragic to a contract last week. Give us your take on the Chicago Bulls. I know many Bulls fans still want them to be aggressive in trade for Kevin Durant. That's not going to happen, even though the reports are that the Bulls did place a call to the Brooklyn Nets. I'm with you. I had that smirk on my face as well. Do you think the Bulls are in a better position now to take the next step and be a consistent playoff winner than they were this past season?
If Lonzo Ball is healthy and Zach LaVine goes back to playing like Zach LaVine when he was healthy, sure, absolutely. Anything can happen. I mean, when you say take the next step, what people have to realize is the next step is to win a playoff series. When you win a playoff series, that means you're one of the top 4 teams in the conference. That is not something to say lightly. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of something to hang your hat on. And just the Bulls to make the playoffs and to play so much better this past season than they had done in the past 5 seasons, that's a big step forward for them. Can they be even better next year? Absolutely. I'm interested to see what they do in terms of rim protection. Again, Lonzo Ball being healthy is key. Zach LaVine being, healthy and having 2 good knees is also key. So, they can do it, but a lot of things, the ball has to bounce the right way in a lot of different ways.
Literally and figuratively. Let's talk Bears for a second, since they open training camp in a few weeks. New regime, new players. Jay Cutler's comments about perhaps maybe he doesn't want Justin Fields to go through what he went through in Chicago when he was the QB. Where do you see the Bears this season coming up?
I see them winning 4 or 5 games. I can see that. 4-13, 5-12. That's where I'm at right now. I mean, Justin Fields can develop all he wants. Who's he getting the ball to? It is an offense first league. I mean, good defense will keep you in games, but good, consistent offense will win you games. And right now, I don't see it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the offensive line will be great and they'll just pound the ball, run the ball. But it's a passing league, and I don't think they have top tier passing targets in the receiver or tight end game. So it's hard for me to put a lot of faith that in Justin Fields' second year without having one, a safety blanket, and two, an elite wide receiving core, he's going to make enough progress for them to win games consistently, especially when you see who's on the schedule.
And sticking with the Bears, Marshall, I know he hasn't had his first training camp yet, but given the personality of Matt Eberflus, listen to him throughout these off-season programs and these press conferences. What is your first impressions of him? From what I take out of it, it looks like he's going to hold players accountable, and it's almost like he's going back to the Lovie Smith school of getting guys in shape and having them play at a certain way to be active around the ball. Do you get those same sentiments?
Well, yeah, when you have guys who are not elite guys overall, when you lose, and they haven't lost both of them yet, but you're going to lose your top two defensive players. I mean, Khalil Mack is gone, and obviously we know the guy who set the single season franchise record for sacks last year is going to be moved. That's the goal. Like, it's hard to say that they're going to be a better defense than they were last year. Maybe he can do enough to make them as good as they were last year, but we know that that's not good enough. At the end of the day, it's not good enough. Interested to see how the secondary develops, this young secondary. There's a lot of things. But as far as Matt Eberflus, I'm sure he's a great coach, as shown through what he was able to do in Indianapolis as the defensive coordinator. But talent trumps all in the NFL. It's not about the scheme. It comes down to the Jimmies and the Joes, as they say. And right now, the Bears don't look like they have enough Jimmies and Joes to get the job done. But Eberflus could be great, and they could still win five games.
Which I'm sure if you're a Bears fan, I'm sure they'll take that. Now, let's talk about the stadium situation. Of course, Mayor Lightfoot came out early this week and said, hey, how about putting a dome over Soldier Field? And then the Bears came out and said, nah, you know what? We're not interested. We're talking about stuff that happens, with Arlington Park and around the same areas. Where do you see this is going? Oh, I think we lost. Did we lose him?
Yeah, I think we lost. So hopefully we can get him back here soon.
Oh, there he is.
Okay.
Or not.
Can you see me, hear me?
Yeah, we got you now. Yeah.
Sorry about that. Mayor Lightfoot, the dome, too little, too late. Doesn't matter. Let's go back to what I said talking about college football. The almighty dollar.
Yeah.
Last time I checked, the Cubs weren't just a baseball team. They were a real estate company. And now the Bears are about to be a real estate company. And they're about to develop all that land around Arlington Heights in their new stadium and make money. Being downtown is cool and novel, but it's not making money. The almighty dollar over everything else. That's it. That's all.
We're heading down the home stretch with our guy Marshall Harris from CBS 2 Chicago Sports right here on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Don't forget you can watch Sports Zone Chicago live on demand on Roku TV. Marshall, the last time we had you on, you was getting acclimated to the community, getting acclimated to the city. I know things weren't open up fully at that time. I know as our guy Sean Sierra, who does our morning show here at Sports Zone Chicago, he always says this is summertime shy. What's some of the activities that you have partaken in since the weather's been consistently warm over the last couple of months?
You know what? Now hold on. It has not been a couple of months before. It's been like a month. Let's get real now. Let's get real.
I'm counting June and July, not May.
Give or take.
We were at the end of May, and it was still 55-degree highs on some days. That was at the end of May. I just been outside, man. Catch me outside. How about that? Like, we outside. Like, I've just been hanging out with my friends and just kind of exploring different parts of the city. I hang out in River North, West Loop, South Loop, depending on the day. And I'm still trying to learn. It's 87 neighborhoods in Chicago I have not been to, but a fraction of them. And I'm trying to rectify that over the course of the next full year. That's my year 2 goal, being in Chicago, as I come up on my 1-year anniversary next week.
Well, look, we have so much to choose from, so you'll find something to do, Marshall. Don't worry. Of course, you come to us. You come to us from Sacramento, of course, the Kings and all the weirdness there. So, do you? I know Mike Brown's new head coach there. They've made some moves. They drafted a couple of good key young players. Do you think they could be right there and not be kind of like an afterthought or a laughing stock? Oh, I think we lost him. I think we lost him again. Hopefully we'll get him back. Oh yeah, I think we lost his signal there, but
Okay.
yeah. Hopefully hopefully we can get come back out there. It goes in. Yeah. So like the whole thing, we're talking about Sacramento and such. So
Mhm.
as he get hopefully we get his signal back, but yeah. So I mean it's interesting. So I don't. Well, what do you think, Sid? I mean, let's talk some Blackhawks here because
Mhm.
again, yeah, because with all the moves that they make and such. Oh, there you are again.
Do we have him? Yeah.
Do we have them?
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I don't think we. Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, I think his signal might be a darn Wi-Fi, folks. Sorry about
And
that.
as of
Oh,
now, they're
oh yeah, we're not. Yeah, we're not like the signal, and he's in. I think the
Yeah.
Wi-Fi is not very good. So yeah, we'll remove him for a second as he get his. Hopefully we
Yeah.
can establish a connection again with him. But
Okay.
yeah, as we still got a few more minutes left. So oh yeah, I think we got him
I
Do we
back.
have him back
Marshall,
again? Let's try one more time.
let's try one more time.
I
Okay.
raised my
Yeah,
phone a little
help.
bit
Yeah,
higher.
that's
Did
that's
that help?
fine. Yeah, look, live. We're live,
Uh,
folks.
yeah. I was just gonna say the Kings, if they don't make the playoffs, what are we talking about? And last time I checked, the Lakers didn't even make the playoffs last year. So like, there's a pecking order, and the Kings are close to the bottom of said pecking order.
Yeah. Last question for me, Marshall, and sticking with the NBA, of course, Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. They're the top two names. Them being to discuss the possible trades. Do you see one or both of them going by next season, beginning of next season, or do you think it's going to linger on until around the trade deadline of next season?
I wouldn't be surprised if it did. It's just interesting because I think the Nets have a good enough team to be a title contender right now if Kyrie's playing games and Kevin Duranting. But they want out, so your guess is as good as mine on that. I would love to see them just stay in Brooklyn and do their
Mm-hmm.
thing. I'm interested to see what you give up after we saw what Rudy Gobert costs Kevin Durant. 4 years of Kevin Durant, that's a hefty
Yeah.
price you're going to have to pay, and I don't think many teams have the assets. It's going to have to be like a multi-team deal, in my opinion, to get something done.
Probably 3 or 4 teams, maybe. Last question for me, Marshall. The Blackhawks, they traded the Brinkett. Sorry. Kirby Doc, they made a couple other moves last night during the draft. What can you say about the Hawks at this point, Marshall?
When I was a young child and I was losing badly in a video game to someone else, sometimes I just, stretched a little bit. And when I stretched, my leg went out and it may have hit the reset button. And that's what's going on right now with the Chicago Blackhawks. It's the reset button. I just want to see what happens with Patrick Kane, Jonathan Taves, where they end up. Because there's definitely not sticking around for this.
Yeah, I don't blame them. We'll see what happens with the men in red. Marshall, thank you so much for joining us today right here on Second City Sports, live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Great job. Early congratulations from us to you on your 1-year anniversary in Chicago. And congratulations again. I saw that in your sports department, they expanded to Sports Extra on Saturdays and Sunday nights. You're a part of that as well. Give us about 45 seconds or so. How did that come about? You get expanded sports coverage on the weekend newscast.
Well, we obviously always want to do more. I mean, we were doing less, and they were like, we're gonna make it bigger. And so now, instead of just a standard sports in our hour-long newscast on Saturdays and Sundays at 10 p.m., we give you a little bit more. We usually give you a feature of a local story in Chicago. We have great conversations with people in the know this weekend. In fact, we're going to have Phil Thompson on Blackhawks beat writer, to talk about what you guys were just talking about, which is the state of the team and the draft and what the future holds. So every week we have somebody different on to talk about what's going on, what's topical. And it's been fun. And we're hoping the show even gets bigger when we head to football season, but we'll see how that goes.
Yeah,
All right.
Yay.
Yep. All right. That's Marshall Harris, CBS2 Chicago sports director, anchor, reporter, host. He does it all on WBBM TV in Chicago. You can watch him every day on his CBS2 News at 4, 5, 6, and 10, and everywhere else in between. Thank you, Marshall, for joining us again on Second City Sports. And let's do this again down the line, okay? Perhaps during football season.
All right, Sid, Lakeena, thanks for having me, guys.
Thank
All right,
you.
appreciate you.
Stay safe.
All right, once again, that was Marshall Harris, our guy from CBS2 Chicago. He's coming up on a 1-year anniversary at Channel 2. Of course, we got to bring back on our guy, Matt Zahn. We had him on, I think, a year ago. I was thinking about this last night, Lakeena, as watching that Cubs-Dodgers game. We brought him on, I think it was the day after the Cubs did that no-hitter, combined no-hitter. And, of course, the Cubs, not blaming Matt Zahn, of course, but the Cubs went downhill afterwards. And so, I know he covers the Bears for CBS2 Chicago. We'll get him on at some point. Of course, we had our other buddy, Jackie Kostek, on for back in March, during March Madness. I know she covers both news and politics. She's been doing a great job this week doing the whole Highland Park tragedy from July 4th. And so they do a great job over there at CBS2 Sports. And so go check them out. And make sure you follow Marshall Harris on all social media platforms on Twitter and Instagram. He's a great follow.
Yeah, M. Harris on Air is his Twitter, and I believe his Instagram as well.
Yes, it is. So, yes, it is.
Yeah, so make sure you guys check him out there. He has some great content as well. I know he does a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff too on his Instagram page.
Yes, he does.
So
yes, he does.
Hopefully, they'll be doing more for, especially as football season approaching, both college and pro, especially with the Bears. So yeah, they all do a great job over there too. So follow our friends on various social media accounts. We still got about 5 minutes left. So let's try to kind of stretch this out a little bit. During the NHL draft, something happened off the ice, and this poor guy, Maverick Lamoureux, if you guys don't know, he got drafted by the Coyotes. But his parents got all the headlines. They made out on national television in front of everybody, millions of people, all over U.S. and Canada. So oh my God, Maverick, I am so sorry for you, honey. I'm so sorry. I'm sure he is not gonna live this down. He is not. And he's actually a really good player. He's a really good player too from Canada. So from Ontario. So I feel bad for him. Sorry, Maverick. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Speaking of truth though, there, and I feel sorry for him once he go into training camp. His new teammates gonna give him all the you know what.
Oh yeah.
He better have some thick skin real quick. I'm sure most of them, his new teammates, are gonna mean well, but he's got to have some thick skin, probably more thick skin than he ever imagined.
That poor guy. Oh God, I feel sorry for the kid.
Forget about showing your other people your parents showing other people your baby pictures, but this tops it all.
Yeah, they're making out in front of the whole world. At least
smush.
Especially in front of North America too. Like, oh, good grief! But yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, sorry, Maverick, and congratulations to being drafted by the Coyotes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the important thing. But also to Wimbledon. The finals will be coming this weekend. Of course, breakfast at Wimbledon. Novak Djokovic. We're going for his. I believe this will be his sixth Wimbledon title, his first this year. He'll be going up against Nick Kyrgios, who is a very fascinating player from Australia. I'm sure if you guys heard the name, you know the headlines of the stuff he does both on and off the court. Unfortunately, not Rafael Nadal. His bid for the Grand Slam, calendar slam, took a toll. He hurt his abdomen, I should say, during that match with a great classic match with Taylor Fitz from the United States, and unfortunately he couldn't play today. So Kyrgios got to walk over to the final. He'll be facing Djokovic, so should be an entertaining match though, nonetheless.
Probably Djokovic will win again. It's always him and Rafael Nadal going for the men's title. Lakeena, I asked the question 1,000 times. This is 1,001. When are we going to see the next male American great tennis player?
Well, I think Fitz is kind of like he's kind of showed a lot of promise. He won a big tournament earlier this year, I believe, out down in Miami, which is one of the big tournaments outside the Grand Slam. So he made it all the way to the quarters. So maybe he could be kind of like that guy. He's only 23. He's already got a couple of tournaments under his belt. So we'll see. We'll see. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of pressure on him as we get to the U.S. Open in about a little over a month. So we'll see what happens there. Now, on the ladies' side, you got a couple, again, teams like this is the theme here for these last couple of Grand Slams. You got a couple of first-timers. Elena Rybakina, I should say, from Kazakhstan. She's originally from Russia, of course, moved to Kazakhstan. Now she played Kazakhstan, played for the last few years. Also, too, Olish Jabor, who just playing the best tennis of her life after having her second child. She would be the first player from Africa, male or female. She's from Tanzania to win a Grand Slam title. Should she win tomorrow? Also, too, the first from an Arabian country. Of course, Tanzania is an Arabian country in Africa. So someone's going to win their first Grand Slam final. So make sure check that out, guys. I know you guys are probably just learning about these ladies, through the tournament, but check both matches out on tomorrow and Sunday, I should say.
Yeah, but I believe the ladies' final is tomorrow, Saturday. Yes. I know the men's final is on Sunday.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So definitely be checking some of that out. Like I say, it's good to get new blood in there sometimes.
Yeah. So yeah, it's good, especially So no shade there, absolutely. And of course, it should be a great match regardless. So. Should be fun. And it looks like also too Roger Goodell has admitted that Sunday Ticket will be on a streaming service this year. I think we all figured that out already. Yeah. Of course, Amazon, Disney Plus, and Apple is also both all three of them are vying for Sunday Ticket. So we'll probably have something. Hopefully probably before the end of the year, I guess. So yeah, so he actually did admit it. So
yeah, and also Apple too. We were talking about this even doing our interview with Marshall Harris from CBS 2 Chicago about the colleges. I know I don't think we talked about this yet, Lakeena, but we'll mention it quickly, even though we run up against it. Apple TV was trying to get into the game of college football as well, trying to join in with those Big Ten media rights.
Yes. I think they were trying to do that too. Of course, the Big Ten looking for a new TV home, and yeah, you're right. I mean, they're trying to get into sort of peeking in there. It's like the Big Ten rights and such, but I think the Big Ten has said, no, we're not ready for that. They may put maybe a few games there to kind of test it out, but I think they know that if they want to kind of keep the money flowing. I know Kevin Warren is the commissioner of the Big Ten. I think he wants to try to get as many eyeballs as possible because, as Marshall said, more eyeballs, more money. So they know that keeping it on television, on cable, will probably be the best way to go to get that revenue.
Yep, that's the name of the game. Is the big old Money. Last question from me to you, Lakeena, before we close out. Kyrie Irving, listening to some people from LA Sports Radio over the last 48 hours or so, some people say it may be a foregone conclusion that he's going to join the Lakers, whether it be in a few weeks or in a couple of months or perhaps early in the start of next season. Do you think Kyrie Irving would be a good fit for the Lakers?
I guess if LeBron says so, right? I mean, I think that's sort of
thing. Like but you know what happened this time last year? He wanted Russell. It blew up in his face.
Yeah. So and then look how that turned out. So I don't know. I mean, it probably won't take as much to get Kyrie as it would Rudy Gobert. We saw. Look, we didn't get a chance to talk about that yet. Said we saw how much they had to have, how much the Timberwolves had to give up, and I think that was a lot too to get. Gobert, but
Gobert,
they probably won't have to give up too much. I'm talking about the Lakers to get Kyrie, so I don't know. I mean, do you do a swap? Do you put Russell Westbrook? Put him and KD back together? Maybe they'll get KD to stay. I don't know, but look,
I don't know. I doubt it.
Look, I mean, the ball's completely, so to speak, not literally, but the ball's on the Nets court when it is because they know that they can pick and choose, and because they know that some teams can afford it. I'm sure DeAndre Ayton has been a name that's floated around perhaps as a trade piece and such, and also a few other guys as well. So, and I know that if you're trying to put him KD or even Kyrie with Miami, they can't do the trade because of the salary thing. So I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, with the Kevin Durant situation, it may be a third team involved. We floated this idea a couple of weeks ago, Lakeena. He may have to take a third team. Who would that third team be? We don't know, but if that happens, it's definitely going to shake up the league as far as Kyrie is concerned. We named about 4 or 5 teams. And it looks like those teams are not as interested as the Lakers are reportedly, and reportedly too, the Nets are they're not getting the offers as they thought they were going to get. But like we said, still have a long way to go.
Yeah, we still got a couple months before training camp. So, and also the Bulls will play their first summer league in about an hour from now on ESPNU, I should say, against the Mavericks. So you get the chance to see Dalen Terry. Get your first look at him.
Yeah, and we'll give you our scouting report about him on Monday's show.
Yeah, Chet Holmgren. You got go to a weight room, my friend.
Yeah, I was just getting ready to say. And now, listen to all these experts. Oh, he looked great and all that. Yeah, that's cool, but most of those people won't be on the training camp roster come the fall, and all of them are not going to be playing overseas either. So, no disrespect to the young man, but the competition is going to be very competitive come the fall.
And Paulo Conchero too. I know he needs to hit the weight room too. He looked good in that game, last night for the Magic. But I'm like, go to the weight room too. Well, look, he has a little bit of muscle. But I think you add a little bit more muscle to you, like you said, because we've been people need to remember that a lot of those guys will not be on the main roster by the time we start training camp in October. So it was late September, I should say. So easy, folks, take it easy on the pace of both these guys. But with that said, you can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sydney Brown, on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80. Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Make sure you follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Make sure you catch Second City Sports Podcast by subscribing to War on Anchor. We are available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. Make sure you follow War Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at WARR Media. And definitely don't you forget, we are now on Roku TV. If you have Roku TV, there we go. Sports Zone Chicago now on Roku TV. If you have a Roku television, just click on the sports section, download that Sports Zone, type in Sports Zone Chicago, and the app should appear right there. You can watch us live and or on demand 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days and 52 weeks out of the year. So Sports Zone Chicago is now exclusively on Roku TV. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We'd like to thank Marshall Harris from CBS 2 Chicago Sports for joining us again today. Great job. And make sure you follow the young man on M. Harris on air on Twitter and Instagram.
All right, folks. Enjoy the gorgeous weather. I know it's going to be raining a lot here in Chicago, especially for the next couple of days throughout the weekend. But even still, enjoy the sports out. Enjoy the sports. You got a lot of great sports, to watch for. We're kind of going to that dead time of year. I know the WNBA All-Star game is, coming up this weekend here in Chicago. I think they're playing over at Wintrust. So if you guys have a chance, check that out on ES. I think it's going to be on ABC, I believe. So make sure to check that out as well for all you WNBA fans.
I know Coach Wade, I think, is an All-Star coach for the
I think so. Yeah, I believe he is.
So congratulations to him.
The East. Yeah, so yeah, they're playing very well too. I think they only had like 4 losses. They're like 21-4 or something like that. So I don't know. We should be following WNBA, but I don't like it like that. I'm sorry. I feel bad.
Someone's gonna be mad at you, Lakeena.
Well, yeah, I know. Our girl Shannon Ryan, who does it for who covers it for the Athletics, gonna be coming for us. But I'm sorry. Look, I know what's going on. I follow what's going on. I just don't watch it. But it's fine. But yes. But also you got baseball and such too. Also, of course, you got.
I'll be at the Sox games this weekend, so I'm sure I'll have a lot to share with you guys.
Yeah. Give us your take. I'm sure they're gonna do something silly, or Brady's gonna overrun something. And
real quick, I think it was Tuesday's game or Monday's game. It was Wednesday. No, it was Wednesday's game. Your guy Eloy made a catch against the net, didn't embarrass himself.
Yeah, no, he didn't hurt himself. So yeah,
I was like, I thought Lakeena, so I got to bring that up on the show today.
Yeah, I know, right? I mean, yeah, he didn't actually hurt himself. So yeah, we'll see. It's usually, like I said, it's usually a feast or famine with him in that net. I swear.
Yeah.
You got the Scottish Open going on right now. Of course, you got the Open Championship I believe is next week, or at least maybe the next couple of weeks. Also, you got, of course, baseball as well. Of course, you got breakfast at Wimbledon this weekend. So a lot of great sports out there. Like I said, we're going to that in the WNBA All-Star game as well. We're going to that dead time of year. So we'll definitely keep you updated on what's going on in the world of sports and whatnot, both locally, nationally, and even internationally. So, enjoy, be safe out there. Of course, our thoughts and prayers go out to the folks over at the Highland Park tragedy that happened earlier this week. But yeah, so we're thinking about all you guys and whatnot too. We're solidarity for your fellow Illinoisans here in Chicago. With that said, if you're not gonna get vaccinated, wear your mask, wash your hands, and be good to each other. This has been Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, and we'll see you Monday. We're back, folks.
Go Sox. Hopefully. Holla!